Hey everybody, welcome back to the program. Today I'm going to be talking about the new 2018 mix of Animals, the classic 1977 album by Pink Floyd. I do want to make a couple of notes right at the top here. One, I am only listening to the vinyl mix. I will be talking about strictly this vinyl pressing. Came out in 2022. Took a couple years to get this released, and there's a whole drama behind it. I'm not going to go into that in this video, but just know that this is when I say new mix, I'm talking about this mix. And I'll be comparing it to my other vinyl copies, which is an early pressing, not an original pressing, but an early US copy of Animals, as well as the 2016 remaster that was put on vinyl. And the other thing I want to make mention of at the top, I didn't think this was necessary. Going into this, I was skeptical. I really didn't think Animals sounded that bad. I thought it sounded quite good. Like it was, 77. Like that's a pretty modern record by modern standards. I mean, if you look from 67 to 77, huge increases in terms of technology and just, I think by 77, the recording quality kind of hit its peak in terms of analog. By then, like this album, about as good as you can get in terms of, analog recording and all of that. Like for a band like this, I mean, this is top-notch recording, production, mixing, all of that. I didn't think it was necessary. However, when I put the needle on, I was shocked. Like, oh my gosh, it still is the same record, but overall, the best analogy I can make is the easiest way. Okay, for those of you who wear glasses, or even if you wear sunglasses, sometimes, you don't realize how kind of dirty they are until you clean them. And then it's like, wow, how was I looking through these before? Same thing with like a window, just like a window in your house, right? You don't realize how kind of dirty it is until you go to clean it, or even a mirror. And then you're like, geez, I didn't realize how much of a film was on it. And that's what this feels like. It felt like someone blew some dust off of a cover, just did like a nice wipe with it. And it was like, it's the same album, but it just sounds so much clearer. Like it feels like in general, the original mix in comparison to this new mix, the original mix feels like this, like it's coming out of here. Whereas this new mix feels like that. It's a subtle little change, but suddenly the instruments, I feel like, all have kind of room to breathe and to stretch, and like, I'll get into more details in a little bit, but overall, it just feels like I can hear everything. Like sometimes in these crescendos, it gets a little, not distorted, but the high ends sort of like overpower the drums and the bass and the organ playing, and like so certain instruments don't get to cut through. Feel like that's totally fixed in this new mix, and I feel it still sounds the same. It just sounds better. It just sounds the way it should have always sounded. And I'll get into like details of what I'm talking about in a little bit, but just overall, my first impression, I just was so impressed. Like it just sounds incredible to me on vinyl. I don't know what it sounds like streaming or surround sound. I can't compare those, but strictly vinyl to vinyl, this is the way I want to hear this album. It sounds so good. And so, yeah, if you'll indulge me, I'm going to play some samples. I'm not going to go as in depth. I'm not going to hide what I'm playing here like I have done in other like Stereo Showdown episodes. This is really more off the cuff. Here is Pigs on the Wing Part 1. And immediately, at least what I noticed, was the presence of Roger's vocals here. The reverb or echo is far reduced. Like if it's there at all, I can't hear it if it's there. I'm sure there's a little bit of it, but this is the one instance where I'm not sure I would have gone this route. Like on the one hand, I feel it matches the presence of the guitar better because now it sounds like they're in the same space, whereas his vocals sounded, further away in the original mix. What that really says overall thematically, I don't know, it's interesting. Yeah, so I'll let you guys check that out.
We would zigzag away through the bottom of pain. We would zigzag away through the bottom of pain. We would zigzag away through the bottom of pain.
All right, so moving on to Dogs. When the drums first kick in, I feel they're so much more clear than they were on the original mix. It's far less muddy in my opinion. And then this keyboard section sounds way more alive to me. When we get to the recurring stone section here, I think it sounds so much more full, and the keyboards here really sound alive. They, you know, in comparison to the original mix, they sound a little dead to me. It's interesting. Then when we get to the solo towards the end of the song, it just sounds so much better to me. Okay, so going to Pigs right off the bat, I think everyone can agree the bass sounds so much better on here. I mean, I was shocked that my needle wasn't jumping out of the grooves because it just sounds so full and deep and just resonant. I can't believe that element was there, but just so buried in the mix originally. Like, it's such a shame. Like, I love this song even more now. When we get to the like wailing guitar section here, again, the bass feels so much better riding right along with the guitar here. I don't know what they did. I mean, they probably didn't do anything other than, you know, a couple of knobs here and there, but I love the subtle changes here. And then the drums, they just hit so much harder when they first come in. I love it. Now, my only real gripe with this is I'm not sure why they brought down the volume of the keyboard during this breakdown section. Just seems like it sounded better in the original mix. Yeah, and then so on Pigs on Wing Part 2, very similar to the first part. However, you know, I think there's a little bit more reverb on his voice. But the end result to me, I think the reverb was helping his voice in the original mix. Here, his vocals sound really weak. It's not a bad thing, but it does, for me, sort of change the meaning of the lyrics and sort of like, you know, the ending of the record. It sort of changes things for me. I don't know how I quite feel about this yet, but it is interesting to note.
Now that I've found somewhere safe to bury my bone. Now that I've found somewhere safe to bury my bone. Now that I've found somewhere safe to bury my bone.
Okay, so moving on to the packaging. Now, right off the bat, when I think Roger made the announcement on his YouTube channel about this coming out, and he like for a second flashed the cover art, I was a little let down because, I mean, let's be real. Animals cover art is incredible. It is iconic. It is painterly. It's fantastic. It's one of my favorite covers of all time. And here we have this. The more I got into this new mix, I've warmed up to the cover. I still don't love it, but what I do love about it is one thing that, I mean, as much as I love the original album art, there is sort of a warm, fuzzy, nostalgic feeling about it because it is, the color palette is warm tones, even with this reissue that made it much more contrasty, which I don't love. It's still in warm tones, whereas this, I feel, is way more bleak, way more industrial. The only thing I don't like about it is the quality of the image. Like, it's almost too sharp, if that makes sense. Whereas, you know, this was shot on film, so there's a filmic quality about it because it is film. But, you know, with film, you get that grain, you get a little bit of softness, whereas this has a real digital feeling about it, which I don't love. But by and large, everything else is pretty similar when you open up the gatefold, right? The other thing I love about this release, and I totally think it's worth owning, is this booklet. I think this is, besides the new mix, I think this is totally worth the price of admission because, like, I wasn't expecting much from this booklet, but a lot of these images were really hard for me to track down, and here you have them in a really good print quality, just showing you like outtakes from the original Pig shoot, and then you have the lyrics. And here are some photos like I don't ever remember coming across. Really cool. And then you get, rehearsals, beautiful photography by Aubrey Powell of Hypnosis here. And then you get some flyers from the time when the album was released, like the release party. And then you get some of the inflatables. Like, getting some of this imagery is so fantastic because it's really hard to find good quality stills from this time period. So great. I love this. This was such a nice surprise. I'm sure the Super Deluxe will be even better. But yeah, I'm so happy to have picked this up. I'm really happy with the mix overall. It's just, it really does this album justice. And it was one of those things, like, I didn't think it needed it, but now that I hear it, it's like I can't live without it. I'm so thankful to have it. Like, this is my definitive go-to version of the album to listen to. And with that, I want to know what you have to say. What did you think of this new mix? Were you blown away by it, or were you a little disappointed? Did you think it was necessary? Leave a comment down below. Until then, thank you all so much for watching, but I especially want to thank my members over on Patreon. We are now a much larger group, and it is awesome. We have a great time, and for as little as $1 a month, you can come join the party. All right, everybody, that will do it for today. I'm your Vinyl Geek, and I'll catch you on the flip side.